Here is how life in North Korea and the world in general will possibly change on that day when the Kim dynasty's authoritarian and dictatorial rule will finally come to an end, ushering in a new type of leadership or governance to these people that only escaped imperialism in 1910 to find themselves under colonialism and later be yoked in a hereditary dictatorship that turned 75 years this year. We believe that such a day will eventually be a reality somewhere in the coming future because nothing lasts forever and the Kim dynasty is not immune to the laws of evolution of governance or civilization. But before we proceed to a look of how North Koreans' lives will possibly be changed when the Kim family will be out of the picture, let's have a look at the past and how North Koreans found themselves in the current state where they live in isolation, paranoia and constant fear of being thrown in jail, of enforced labor camps, or executed at any moment should they say, do, or fail to do something in a way that pleases the Kim family. When the United States of America proposed dividing of the Korean peninsula into two occupation zones along the 38th parallel, with one half meant for the US and the other half meant for the Soviet Union following Japan's surrender and relinquishing control over the peninsula on the 2nd of September 1945. It was understood by nearly everybody on that negotiation table that the division was only a temporary arrangement and the trusteeship would last until that time when the Korean people will be ready for self-rule. As such, the Soviets accepted the proposal and agreed to divide Korea, which had been historically one and under Imperial Japan's colonialism since the fall of the Korean Empire on the 22nd of August 1910 and its subsequent annexation by Japan following the Japan-Korea Treaty of 1905.
자기의 군대가 없는 것을 얼마나 통탄하여 왔습니까? 해당 이후의 입에서도
In that 1945 agreement, the Soviet Union ended up occupying North Korea that had Pyongyang as its biggest city, and the Americans settled for the southern piece which had Seoul as its biggest city as they worked on handing over the country to Koreans to govern themselves. However, unbeknownst to the two military superpowers, this proposal and agreement would later become the basis for the division of Korea, largely due to their two different ideologies and their inability to agree on the terms of Korean independence. In November 1947, the United Nations created a task force to hold free elections across Korea to establish a new national government, but the Soviet Union denied this task force a chance to operate in its zone in the north of the 38th parallel, thereby formalizing a division between the free and democratic South Korea and communist North Korea. In August 1948, the government of South Korea was established, and at the same time a government was also set up in North Korea, with Kim Il-sung, who was Kim Jong-un's grandfather, taking the position of premier of what came to be identified as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, on September 10, 1948. Then in December 1948, the United Nations recognized South Korea's government and not that of North Korea, but between December 1948 and June 1949, both Soviet and American military forces left their respective Koreas, leaving the two new nations as sovereign states. Tensions between the two states resulted in Kim Il-sung authorizing North Korea's invasion of South Korea, resulting in the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950. Kim Il-sung was attempting to carry out a forced reunification with the aim of having his communist government as the ultimate government ruling over a reunified country. However, an intervention by foreign troops brought the war to an end in 1953, but without a formalized peace treaty and with redrawing of a new border that slightly ate into North Korea. It came to be known as the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, and is one of the most dreaded borders in the world today. Over the next 4 decades, Kim Il-sung, who focused on Korean nationalism, self-reliance and socialism, transformed a highly promising North Korea into an economically embattled totalitarian socialist state with a centrally planned economy which at the time of his death in 1994 was battling one of the worst famines in history, largely due to the collapse of the Soviet Union on which it highly depended for sustenance. But 14 years before his death, he had presided over the 6th Workers' Party of Korea Congress in 1980 with the aim of determining his successor, and in the election that were held, his eldest son Kim Jong-il was elected as the heir apparent, thus establishing the Kim dynasty. Just like his father, Kim Jong-il reigned the country with terror and strict authoritarianism, putting more emphasis on the country's military muscles. When he died in December 2011, he was succeeded by his 1981-born son Kim Jong-un, who was 30 years old back then. Then, following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather, Kim Jong-un has been ruling North Korea with an iron fist, repression, ruthlessness and total isolation, blocking North Koreans from accessing the external world by all means and using all means to make sure that they don't speak about the horrors he's been subjecting them to in his quest to consolidate power and maintain it. It's for this reason that we believe there are plenty of things that will change or happen in North Korea on that day when the country will no longer be under the Kim dynasty's absolute and hereditary dictatorship. First and foremost, there will definitely be a political revolution or power struggle among North Koreans seeking to establish the subsequent form of government. Then, since they've heard a taste of socialism that was combined with dictatorship for nearly a century and seen how unbearable and awful such a mix can be, we believe the public will not be in support of any emerging leader who is inclined towards such past ideologies. Who knows, North Korea might turn into another thriving democracy after a series of trial and error. Then second, we believe freedom will win over totalitarianism and a government that values freedom will come into existence, and even though the same freedom might not be like how it is in advanced free nations, it'll be of slight reprieve as compared to the Kim dynasty's absolute authoritarianism. Thirdly, an end to the Kim dynasty's rule will most likely result in the opening up of the country and connecting it to the external world. Things like the internet, foreign content and entertainment might start entering the country. Fourth, we believe an end to the Kim dynasty's rule will give exiled North Koreans a chance to go back home to participate in the transformation of their country into a state they would want it to be. Then last but not least, we believe most of the sanctions that North Korea has been battling over the years will be lifted once the Kim dynasty's rule will be a thing of the past, and it will turn into a top tourist destination as curious people from around the world will throng to Pyongyang and North Korean villages to explore a country that has been closed for decades. What else do you think will change in North Korea once the Kim dynasty will have gone? Let's hear from you in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button before leaving.